So today's class is the development of vascular system. I hope you've gone through the note which I have given and also this PowerPoint. So vascular system, so yesterday we've talked about the development of heart. And if you remember, the heart tube is having two ends. One is an arterial end and the other is a venous end. Okay, so this is where all the veins related to the embryo and extraembryonic tissues, they bring the blood to the venous end. And from the arterial end is the arteries, that is the aorta as well as your pulmonary trunk. So that's going to exit from the arterial end. So this is it. So here for this two processes that you should know, one is a vasculogenesis and the other is angiogenesis. So here the three germ layers, we have the ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm, and we have the embryonic tissues which is mesenchyme, which can convert into any type of cell. Okay, so this mesenchyme, so here endothelial cells form and they form the blood vessels. So the de novo synthesis from the mesenchyme, the blood vessel, like it just appears, and that's called as vasculogenesis. So usually whatever process takes place before birth is all vasculogenesis with a limited angiogenesis. But after birth, okay, whatever happens is angiogenesis, like sprouting from an existing vessel. So here when you see the development of vascular system, you will find some basic plan that is laid down. So that is all by vasculogenesis. And from it, some extra vessel comes out and then goes and meets another vessel. So, you know, forming communicating channels. So that is all angiogenesis. And particularly angiogenesis, what you see after birth, like if there is some trauma or injury. Okay, again, that particular area of your body gets healed. There's again revascularization of that particular area. So that is all depend on a process called as angiogenesis. So like that, certain blood vessels are formed in the body. So we'll just go into this quickly now. So this is vasculogenesis, and two important vessels that are first laid down are, one is the dorsal aorta, which we have talked about previously also, and the new one here, it is the cardinal veins. So the cardinal veins are the veins which should be draining the blood from the embryo proper. Okay, and then angiogenesis is this, and for this growth factors are required. So actually we are talking of this processes of this development of heart, vascular system and all. So these are all dependent on growth factors. And so for this blood vessel development, one of the important growth factors is vascular endothelial growth factor. So in detail about this process, you will learn in pathology in the next year. So where does this, where do these blood vessels form? This vasculogenesis, where do you see that? So in the mesoderm. So which mesoderm? You have mesoderm restricted to the embryo, that is called as embryonic mesoderm, and we also have the mesoderm which is outside the embryo, that is along the umbilical cord and in the placenta and over the around the yolk sac. So that is all extra embryonic mesoderm. So there again there is vasculogenesis. So here, so this is what is written here. So this is an embryo. This is the dorsal aspect of the embryo and this is the ventral aspect. And here you can see this is the yolk sac. Okay. And here you can see this is a location actually of the gut tube, and just ventral to it, what you're seeing, this is the heart tube. You can see there are two ends. This is the venous end, this is the arterial end. Okay, and you can see there are so many veins coming here. Let's see what are these. So I told you cardinal veins, they will be draining the embryo proper. So here is one word, anterior cardinal vein, and then here is another word, posterior cardinal vein, and the third one is common cardinal veins. So you can see the direction of the anterior cardinal vein. So this is the head end. This is the caudal end of the embryo. So you can see this is collecting all the blood from this part and it's coming down here. So the cranial part of the embryo is drained by the anterior cardinal vein. And you can see from this caudal end, you can see this is a posterior cardinal vein. And together they form a common short channel called as the common cardinal vein. And that is draining into the sinus venosus. So yesterday I've shown you the parts of the developing heart tube. So venous, we have a sinus venosus that leads into the primitive atrium, then primitive ventricle, valgus cordis and truncus arteriosus. So this is the sinus venosus which receives the blood. Then you can make out here, this is the placenta. So this placenta, we have the chorionic villi. So primary, secondary, tertiary chorionic villi. So from the villi, the blood vessels here, you can see, these are the umbilical vein. And it's going along in the umbilical cord, entering here, and then it is bringing the blood to gain to this venous sac. Then this is the yolk sac. So on the yolk sacs also there is a plexus of veins. Okay, so both arterial and venous. You can see this. So again the blood is drained here like this. So total 3 pairs of veins. So here you are seeing one side of the vein. So this could be the left side. So we have the other side, that is the right side. You have one heart Okay, sinus venosus is having 2 horns. So into it, 3 pairs totally are draining here, draining the blood. Then look at this arterial end. So this is all the heart. So this should be the primitive atrium, primitive ventricle, bulbus cordis, truncus arteriosus. So the distal part of the truncus arteriosus is dilated from the aortic sac. And this aortic sac, initially, it will communicate with the dorsal. So this is the dorsal aorta. So this is an important, it contributes to your aorta. So when you've dissected, you have seen your thoracic aorta, then there's abdominal aorta. So that is this one. So initially, this communicates with the dorsal aorta by the first pair of pharyngeal arches. So you have your arch like this, the floor as well as on the sides. So we have a pair of arches here. After some time, there are more number of arteries that come and they form, these are the aortic arches and they communicate. So later there'll be a remodeling of this and this will give rise to your blood vessels of your head and neck region. So in the dissection you have seen from the arch of aorta, what we're coming, you see the carotid system, then you see the subclavians. So these arise from this particular arteries. And then one more 6th pair of artery also communicates, but later it detaches from the dorsal aorta and it directs behind to go towards your developing lungs. So again here, the foregut gives a diverticulum, respiratory diverticulum, which gives rise to your lung buds and your lungs. So the arteries go there. Okay, so I hope you understood this diagram. So you can see the dorsal aorta, so the blood goes here, then it's also supplying. So this yolk sac and this gut, this is going to form your future GIT. So if you remember, your abdominal aorta is giving 3 trunks. One is a celiac trunk, superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric, and via these, they supply blood to your entire gastrointestinal tract. So you can compare this to that. Vital and artery. Then again, it's giving out here the umbilical arteries, which will go again to the placenta. So carrying the deoxygenated blood. Because in the embryo, which is the source of exchange of oxygen, it is the placenta and not the lung. Okay, so here, so whatever blood will be going here will be deoxygenated blood. And oxygenation takes place. There's an exchange between the maternal blood and the fetal blood, the oxygen content. Then again, the oxygenated blood enters again into the fetus, into the embryo via the umbilical vein. So the umbilical vein is very important. So this is what is there in this diagram. So again, your development of arterial system. So you can see the heart tube and all this. So these are the horns into which the 3 pairs. So 3 this side and 3 this side. That is a common cardinal vein, umbilical vein, and vital line vein. First, we'll talk about the development of arterial system. So already I've told you in the branchial arches. So the head region, each pharyngeal arch has a pair. So right and left, you've got a pair. And these are extensively remodeled to form different structures. Okay, so this is this. So initially there are a pair of dorsal aorta, later they will be fusing. So in the cranial part, they are looking, see that you're looking from the ventral side of the embryo. Okay, under surface of the embryo you're seeing. So this will be the aortic sac and this continuation will be the truncus arteriosus like that. Okay. So, and here it's going and communicating. So what is missing here? There should be a gut tube here between this and this. I hope you are understanding the concept. So this is the ventral aorta location. This is your dorsal aorta and this side is your pharyngeal arteries. Okay. So total 6 pairs because there are 6 arches. 5th one is rudimentary. So that's totally, it's, you know, they just showed a very thin one here. Okay. So what happens is remodeling. So normally you have your arterial system shifted towards your left side. So you've got your aorta comparatively, I mean, with respect to the vertebral column, you can say it's towards your left. And now look at this. So there's a remodeling here. Now what happened here, you can see these dotted lines represent that this particular arteries have disappeared. And again here. So in this diagram, what can you make out? The first one has disappeared. Both sides second are disappeared. The 5th, obviously they will not be there. And you can see the 6th on one side, it is disappeared. And you can see this part here. So this is a 6th arch. I told you it will just change a sprout small vessel towards the lung. So here it will be going to the lung. So this will be the developing lung bud. So this will go towards the lung bud. So this is no more required. So this is lost. But here still there's a communication here. So this is what originally it looks like. Later after remodeling, this is what is happening. So there are certain of the arches which are being lost. and some blood vessels which are now newly forming here. So we have to know what are they. So the changes in the original aortic arch. So the first one here, so you can see first and the second are lost, fifth is almost lost. And this segment here between third and fourth is lost on both the sides. And sixth on one side, you can see the distal part is lost, but here it is still there. And again, you can see the communication. This is lost here, okay? So what is happening? What are the derivatives? So first and second, they give small contributions to blood vessels in your head region. So you know there's a very large maxillary artery. So small part of maxillary artery is coming from the first aortic arch. Then stapedial artery, a small part, it's coming from the second aortic arch. Then the third is giving rise to your common carotids and just the proximal part of your internal carotids. Okay, just a small part. The rest is all formed by, you can see this is all the dorsal aorta. This is the ventral part. So the arch is just contributing to the small part. Then what about the fourth one? So on the fourth, this is fantastically developing, forming the arch of aorta. Okay, and it also gives us a small beginning of the, what should be here? You have common carotid on the left side, one more vessel, what's missing here? The right subclavian. So the proximal part of the right subclavian also comes here. And this side, this will totally become the right subclavian, and this common origin as the brachiocephalic trunk. So in sixth, they're becoming the proximal parts are becoming pulmonary arteries, and here one more ductus arteriosus on the left side. So this one you should know. Okay, now look at this. So this vein, nerve, what should this be? This is a vagus. So if you remember the base of your skull, you've got a foramen called jugular foramen, through which the three nerves, 9, 10, 11, they just exit out from the cranial cavity. So 9 goes here towards the stylopharyngeus, then 10 straight, 11 goes behind in the roof of your posterior triangle, and it will be supplying to your sternocleidomastoid and trapezius. So this vagus now, it's just coming down like this. Then it has to supply to the larynx. So where do you have the larynx? You have it here. Okay. So this is the region where your the respiratory diverticulum is developing. So you will get the larynx, then the trachea, and then the lung buds. Okay. You're looking on the ventral aspect of the embryo. So here the vagus is coming, and one of its most important nerve supplies towards your larynx. So then it says, fine, I forgot to give a branch, and then it goes back in course. So these are the recurrent laryngeal nerves. So after it has come almost up to the 6th pharyngeal arch, aortic arch, there it remembers, oh, I have to supply to the larynx, which is going to form here, the diverticulum, larynx, trachea, and the lungs. So this is going up. So when this is going up, you can see that there are blood vessels that are disappearing. So obviously this tends to hook to this one which is more proximal. See, this is a subclavian artery where this is hooking. But look onto the left side. So this one has, I mean, here you can see there's a communication. This part has disappeared, but there's a communication, not allowing it to go up. That is why in the dissection, when you see the arch of aorta, you find there's a recurrent laryngeal nerve hooking the ligamentum arteriosum and going up. So this is again related. So the reason for this is because of your aortic arches. So on the right side, they're regressing, because of which the recurrent branch is hooking at a higher level. But here, because this distal part of the 6th arch is intact, forming the ductus arteriosus in the fetus, and later in the adult, it is after birth, it becomes your ligamentum arteriosum. So this is why this is just hooked up here like this. So that's one point you should relate it with here. So when the development of aorta takes place, there can be so many anomalies. So you don't need to know in detail about the pathology or the etiology and consequence of it, but just learn some names. So this is one is a coarctation of aorta. So coarctation of aorta is a narrowing. Okay, so when this is narrowing, what could happen? So there's a defect in the wall of the blood vessel. Okay, especially tunica media. And sometimes there can be some internal proliferation also tunica intima. So that's narrowing the lumen. So this is coarctation of the aorta. And I said here there are two types, a preductal and a postductal. Because this usually when they have seen the coarctation of aorta, they find it related to this ductus arteriosus. So if it is just before the ductus arteriosus, it is called preductal, and after that it is the postductal. Okay. So what happens in such coarctation of aorta? Already the common carotids and subclavians are given. So the upper part, that is the head and neck region limbs, are well supplied by the blood. But because of this narrowing, there will be a decrease in the blood supply to the rest of the body. So because of which there will be the other arteries, like you from your subclavian you get internal thoracic artery. So that will become very much big, and that will through anastomosis supply to the rest of your body. So the other circulation, anastomotic channels all open. So it's like they have even dancing scapulas also. So when you see a case of coarctation of aorta, because of that, a lot of channels, anastomosis opening up, and a lot of blood going through it. So it's like that. So just remember coarctation of aorta, and it's a preductal and a postductal type. And you can see abnormal origin of the subclavian arteries. So actually the right should come from here. Supposing it's not coming, it's started from this side, and it again has to go towards its destination. So what can happen then? There's a chance that it is, so obviously in the center, what are you having? You've got your trachea and esophagus. And where does the recurrent laryngeal nerve run? Here, the tracheo-esophageal group. This is one of a very important thing we should remember. So this right subclavian artery is going like this. So there are chances that it can compress the esophagus. Again, even double aortic arch also. You can see they're forming a vascular ring around. So difficulty in swallowing and in breathing. So that's about the development of arterial system. So you should know what is vasculogenesis, what is angiogenesis. Then you should be able to draw a diagram of the pharyngeal aortic arches. And what are the derivatives? So 6 pairs of arches having 6 pairs of aortic arteries, and they connect your ventral aorta and dorsal aorta. So ventral aorta is nothing but the aortic sac, which is the terminal part of your truncus arteriosus. Okay, and that expands and gives rise to all the blood vessels to connect. Okay, and what is the fate of that each of the arterial arch? So which is lost, and if it is remaining, what it forms? So those derivatives are a short note question for you. And abnormalities. So if usually we have only one left arch of aorta, but sometimes there can be a right-sided arch, or there can be a double aortic arch, or abnormal origins of blood vessels like the subclavian. These may cause, they may compress the middle structures. The important structures here are the trachea and esophagus. So that's about your aortic arches, arterial system development. The next, coming to the development of venous system. So venous system, what are the veins that you've seen in dissection? So when you were dissecting the thorax, first it was the thorax. So you've seen the posterior wall when you've gone to, you've seen some intercostal veins. Then you've seen the azygous system of veins and superior vena cava. Then when you've gone to the abdomen part, then you have seen the inferior vena cava. Then portal venous system. So all these venous systems, so we should understand what is the basis of the development of venous system. So normally during the development, whether it is arteries or veins, there's a bilateral symmetry is maintained. So the right and the left, we've got, if the right side you find a vessel, the left side also in the same position you find a vessel. But later there will be a remodeling of the structures. So that's more here compared to that of the arterial system. In the veins, it is more, too many veins are there. Okay, so ultimately it's like veins, you think like they're confused, like so many veins, one for the kidney and one for your body wall. So like that, they do different functions. So there are so many, but ultimately we get the caval system, that is a superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Then for your body wall, you've got your azygous system of veins, and from your GIT, all that nutritious blood, because the lacteals and all that empty, and all that the nutritious blood which they absorb. So that will be going to the liver for metabolism. So these 3 systems have to develop. So for that, we will see what's. So here, the superior vena cava. So how is the superior vena cava formed? By your 2 brachiocephalic veins. So just like from your arch of aorta, you're getting your common carotid and your subclavian. So same way from this, you get subclavian vein, internal jugular vein, together they form your brachiocephalic vein. Right and left brachiocephalic veins form your superior vena cava. So these 3 already I told you, they come from the 3 different institutions. So I've drawn the pictures because it will be easy for me to teach you. So this is a sinus venosus. Okay, so the venous end of the heart tube is a sinus venosus. So here I've drawn the 3 pairs here. So this is a common cardinal vein, anterior and posterior cardinal veins together. Then this is the umbilical vein. This is the vital line vein. So here, this is representing the yolk sac. So here from the plexus, these are arising. And this, I want to tell that this is a chorionic villi in the placenta. So these are umbilical veins, these are vital line veins, and this is your posterior cardinal vein, this is anterior cardinal vein, and this is a common cardinal. These are all draining into your sinus venosus. So again here, the embryo, the dorsal aspect and the ventral aspect. So from the placenta, you can see umbilical vein. From the yolk sac, vitelline vein and common cardinal vein. This is the heart tube, the venous line. Now, what happens? So initially, it is so symmetrical. So you can see these three actually. Common cardinal vein, umbilical vein, vitelline. Again, vitelline vein, umbilical vein, common cardinal. Now they are going to change to give us three systems of veins. One is a portal venous system, then we get the main caval system, and also we have another one as like a system of veins. So how, they are going to change now. So this left, these two are the vitelline veins. And here what happens? This is where your foregut is developing, like your duodenum. So here what you can see is anastomosis. So the vitelline veins, the left, right and left, there's an anastomotic channel appears around this region of the duodenum. So if this is a duodenum section, you can see that the vessels are communicating with each other, the right and the left vitelline veins. Then just near your heart, there's a tissue, if you remember, septum transversum, I used to tell a long back. Okay, septum transversum, from which your part of this, the liver develops in the septum transversum, and that's where you get diaphragm also. So this is the ventral region. So you're all looking at the ventral aspect, okay? So this is your developing heart, sinus venosus leads into the primitive atrium. So this septum transversum region, the liver is developing, okay? So I hope you got the orientation. So midline, you've got your gut tube, around which the vitelline veins are anastomosing with each other. Then just above that, already in the septum transversum, the liver is developing. And just above that, you've got your heart. Then what happens? So there is this vitelline veins, as they go through it, they are liver tissue is developing. What do you have in liver tissue? You've got the hepatocytes, okay, and you've got connective tissue, and there are hepatic sinusoids. So those blood vessels are coming from where? From this vitelline veins, okay. So they're all breaking up into sinusoids, and you get all the hepatocytes arranged as cords. So between them, you get the hepatic sinusoids. So they're broken up like this. And still they're having a communication beyond the liver with the heart. That is your hepatocardiac vein. Okay, hepatocardiac vein. I hope you understood this now. And after that, what happened? Like unnecessary, like right and left, just mixing this side or that side. They have to have some destination. Ultimately, what is it decided? The veins will be on the right side. So the right vitelline vein says yes. I will be here. So what happens this side? Left, you can see the anastomosis. Lower down, behind anastomosis is lost. Much above, the ventral anastomosis is lost. So ultimately, there's a channel like this. So whatever blood is here, it's going this way. And whatever is coming from here, it will join here. So then this is no more required. This is again no more required. But this is required. So this is the portal vein that's going to develop. Okay, so this is it. The gut tube, and this is the portal vein. So only this will remain. And here, the splenic vein will come and join. So this will become your superior mesenteric vein. This will become the splenic vein when it joins here. Then the portal vein, and it is going towards the liver. So that's the fate of the vitelline veins. So right and left, they'll be going towards sinus venosus. Then around the duodenum, they form the plexuses, and that will become the future portal vein after it's channelized. And then veins which are passing through septum transversum, they will form the hepatic sinusoids. And now all the blood is coming to this part. So this will definitely have to enlarge. So the left hepatocardiac vein, the right hepatocardiac vein will become more wide in its caliber because all the blood is coming towards that. So that's about the destiny of the vitelline veins. So next we are left with the umbilical veins. So in this diagram, I'm just showing you, I have not shown the common cardinal veins. So what you see here are the umbilical veins. So the right and left umbilical veins. So these are bringing what? Oxygenated blood towards the embryo from the placenta. And if you remember, in the umbilical cord, there are two umbilical arteries and only umbilical vein. The left is left. So the right will be lost. And what happens to the left? So this, as it is going here, it communicates with the vitelline vessels here through the liver. Okay? And you can see the communication part here. So now all the left vein, whatever blood is coming, it is channelized here. And what is the fate here? This is going to become your inferior vena cava towards your heart. So it is jumping the blood into the inferior vena cava. So we don't need this anymore. We don't need this anymore. We don't need it. So now see what happened. So the right side totally it is lost, and on the left side, whatever oxygenated blood is coming down, it's coming here, then here. See now in the liver, what are you having? It is all the blood from your GI tract. But what about the umbilical vein? It is bringing very important oxygenated blood. So that oxygenated blood should not mix with the venous blood here. So it will bypass the hepatic sinusoids, form a ductus venosus, and it will join the inferior vena cava, the future inferior vena cava. So this is the ductus venosus. This is your umbilical vein. So what is the fate of the umbilical blood vessels? So umbilical veins, right and left umbilical veins, and they are coming from the chorionic villi of the placenta, and they're bringing oxygenated blood towards your sinus venosus. So these will be connecting to the hepatic sinusoids, and the proximal parts of both sides and the right umbilical vein is disappearing. The left vein is left, and ductus venosus is the communication with the hepatocardiac portion of inferior vena cava. So that's what I have shown here. This is the fate. Okay. Then coming to the cardinal veins. What are these cardinal veins? So this is forming the main drainage system. So I've shown you both anterior and posterior cardinal veins. And here, the cardinal veins, though they're found in the MGO, they are not adequate. Later, they will be giving away their job to another system of veins, like there are supracardinal veins, subcardinal veins. So there are certain other veins that will be developing. So let's just look into that diagram. Okay. So before that, that is one cardinal system. We have other systems like supracardinal and subcardinal. Now let us see the caval system. We have a superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. So what I write here? So formation of the vena cava system is characterized by PRH. So there will be an anastomosis between these channels, which we see later. So let's see the development of the superior vena cava. So superior vena cava is formed at the upper part of your body, so in here. And what are the veins that bring the blood from your head region? These are the anterior cardinal veins. Okay. So this is the normal anatomy which I've drawn here. So this is the internal jugular vein, which is joined by the subclavian vein coming from your upper limb, brachiocephalic vein, and from the left side, another long brachiocephalic vein, and then together they form the superior vena cava. This will empty into your right atrium, and also there's an azygous vein that comes and drains into it. And here I've drawn the posterior surface of the heart, where you can see this is a coronary sinus, and there's an oblique vein of left atrium. This is just to recollect your knowledge about the heart. Now let's look into this. So how is this system going to form from this? Okay, anterior cardinals on the both sides. Then, so again here, they follow the rule. The blood has to go towards your right side. So there'll be an oblique channel of anastomosis between these two, the right and the left, like this. So whatever blood is coming down from here, it need not go here. It is just bypassing it and entering here. And through the right common cardinal vein, entering the sinus venosus. So again, this is not required. So that's the formation of your superior vena cava. So the right anterior cardinal vein, it's forming the internal jugular vein and also your brachiocephalic vein. The left anterior cardinal vein forming internal jugular vein, then oblique anastomosis between the two cardinals, anterior cardinals, is formed in the left brachiocephalic vein, and these two together, they'll be forming the superior vena cava. So superior vena cava, again, two parts. Above the azygous vein, it is by the right anterior cardinal, and below that it is by the common cardinal vein. So little bit this, if you can understand, that's one of the confusing part. So that's very simple. Superior vena cava formation is very simple. Okay. And then what happened here? The common cardinal vein, this is of no use. Okay. And this part here of no use. So these are all lost. But they give some remnants. Okay. So this common cardinal vein, gives a small vessel, and that will be your future ligament of inferior vena cava, this oblique vein of the left atrium, and a part of the dorsal coronary sinus. And you can see another line I've drawn here, joining it. So the proximal parts of your anterior cardinal and your posterior cardinal veins on the left side, they have just remained as a tiny vessel. That is your superior intercostal vein, which drains your upper intercostal vessel spaces on the left side. So just go through this, practice this diagram, you'll understand the derivatives. So this small channel that's remaining here, and common cardinal on the left side, a small channel, and the derivatives. So sometimes this oblique channel may fail to form, and separately this left side drains into sinus venosus, giving rise to double superior vena cava. Or else on the other, the oblique channel may form in this direction, giving you rise to a left superior vena cava. So these are all the anomalies related to it. Then coming to inferior vena cava. So this is a little bit complicated. I said it is a composite structure. Composite structure in the sense there are so many different veins forming different segments of the inferior vena cava. So normally this is the heart, and you've got the liver here and inferior vena cava. So when you have looked at the visceral surface of the liver, you can make out the inferior vena cava, groove of inferior vena cava, and the vessel. So these are the two common iliac veins. So this part above the liver you have, within the liver is called hepatic segment. Just below it is called subhepatic segment. Then the central part here, renal segment. So like that, different segments arise from different blood vessels. Now look at this diagram. So this is the aorta. This is your gut tube, okay? And this is the location of the posterior cardinal veins on either side, which are these, okay? Right and left posterior cardinal veins. And I told you this cardinal system is again supplemented by two more different veins called as supracardinal and subcardinal veins. So here in the cross section, this is the location. Behind it is supracardinal, and just a little bit ventral to it, close to the aorta, we've got another that's called subcardinal veins. So you can see, this line I'm representing supracardinal, and this is the subcardinal. And these channels which you can see, these are all anastomoses. Like if you see, this is the this blue is the posterior cardinal vein. Between them, there's one communication. Then supracardinal above and below communicating with posterior cardinal vein, both sides. Then subcardinal veins also like this. They're communicating with supracardinal, also communicating with the posterior cardinal. Again, these two are again communicating with each other. So this you can just read sub and supra anastomosis, subcardinal anastomosis, supra and post. Like that, these are all connected here. Okay. Now, again, what is the rule here? The blood has to go towards the right side. So, all the blood is directed this side. So, this one is no more required. Blood is directed here. Then from here it goes. So, what is the reason that supracardinal veins and subcardinal veins have arisen? Because the posterior, the body wall. So, all the blood vessels related to the body wall, they drain into supracardinal system of veins. And here, this is the mesonephros. If you remember the intermediate mesoderm, where the mesonephros is there, from which the kidney develops, and also the gonad and the suprarenal. So all of them, the veins, they drain into the subcardinal system of veins. But actually, if you see, remember the diagram of your inferior vena cava. Into it, what will be draining? The lumbar veins, which are coming from your body wall. Then you've got the renal vein, the gonadal vein, suprarenal veins. And that's how you can't have three different veins now. They all are together as one. Before they were separate. And you can see the blood which comes from here, it enters here. And then this is the confluence of common iliac veins. So from posterior cardinal, it goes into supracardinal. From supracardinal goes into subcardinal, because this region is picking up all the blood from your lower part, lumbar veins. And then you can come here. This is again draining the blood from your renal veins. This anastomosis is the left renal vein, if you remember the dissection. Okay. Then it is coming here. Then the blood goes towards your heart. So there is no communication between the liver and this. So a new channel sprouts towards the liver. Already in the liver, there's a inferior vena cava is developing. So this goes and joins here. And then this part here, hepatic segment and vital lobe, hepatocardiac segment. So like this entire vena cava has formed. posterior cardinal vein, supracardinal, then subcardinal vein, the new anastomotic channel meeting with the liver, and beyond the liver is from the vitelline vein. So this you should be able to draw and tell from where it has come. So you just draw this and you will know. So that's about the inferior vena cava, and the same way they can be double inferior vena cava or abnormal. I mean, the left side you may have an inferior vena cava, same just like superior vena cava. Then coming to azygous system of veins. So azygous system of veins normally drains what? Your body wall. So you've got azygous system on your right side and you've got left the hemiazygous, accessory hemiazygous. So this comes from your supracardinal veins, because I told you supracardinal ones are the ones which are draining from your body wall, all the intercostal veins coming to it. So here, so all the blood to this, here you can see. So this is again joining with posterior cardinal vein, and through common cardinal vein to the superior, into the sinus venosus. So this common cardinal vein, what is the fate of common cardinal vein on the right side? It is the superior vena cava. That's why azygous vein will be draining into your superior vena cava. And this side, this will be lost. So they establish a communication. So there's always a communication vein between your supracardinal veins. So that you can see here, all the blood which is being collected from your left side intercostal veins, they come to your hemiazygous and accessory hemiazygous. Then again through a communication go towards your right side where you have your azygous vein, and from there they go into superior vena cava. So this azygous vein is formed by your right supracardinal vein and a small portion of the posterior cardinal vein on the right side, and then this will enter into the superior vena cava. That's the azygous system of veins. Next, coming to the fetal circulation. So when you see the blood vessel, I mean the circulation of the fetus, the neonate and the adult, it differs. So we should know what is this in the fetal circulation. So in this diagram, you can see this is the placenta, this is the umbilical cord, this is the umbilicus, liver, heart, and the lungs. So in the fetus, the pulmonary flow is very less because the lungs are not functional in the fetus. And mainly it is dependent upon the placental circulation because this is the organ for exchange of gases. And usually from the right to left. Yesterday in the heart, I've shown you foramen ovale. There's a shunting of blood from the right towards the left side. So once again, this diagram, the four-chambered heart, the openings into that, and here you find the AV orifices, the two trunks emerging from here. This is ductus arteriosus. In the development of aortic arches, I told you the sixth one on the left side, it's going to be patent and connects with the aorta. And here I've drawn the placenta and the umbilical on the left umbilical vein. The communicating channel going through this is the ductus venosus and then inferior vena cava. Okay, from the gut, you're getting portal vein, and from aorta some branches. Next here, I'm showing you the direction of the oxygenated flow. So from here, in the placenta, the oxygenated blood, we have single umbilical vein, left one. So the blood is going here. This is umbilicus entering into the fetus. Then going here through ductus venosus. It is bypassing the hepatic sinusoids in the liver because this is bringing very important blood, high oxygenated blood. So it does not want to waste by mixing with the other blood coming from your from the GI tract. So it's bypassing this hepatic sinusoids, entering into the inferior vena cava and enters into the right atrium. So when it enters into the right atrium, you have the septum secundum here. This is the foramen ovale. So actually it has to go down here. But because of this flow, it is entering into two directions. One, it just goes here through foramen ovale to enter into the left atrium, left ventricle, then aorta, like this. So here it is about 80% oxygenated, and as it passes through the fetus, it is going to decrease its oxygen content, and around 58% it enters into the umbilical arteries. And here, this entire flow of blood, it is cut into two by this crista dividens, which is this lower part of septum secundum. So some part of blood again goes up and comes down. Here, what is the blood? Superior vena cava will be giving the blood here, bringing the blood to the heart. So with it, it will enter here. The maximum blood goes this way. Now coming to the deoxygenated blood. So from the embryo, superior vena cava, from the upper part, and from the lower limb and all, inferior vena cava is bringing blood. So superior vena cava coming and dumping the blood here. Then inferior vena cava collecting the blood, going through this inferior vena cava hepatic segment, then entering here. So this mixes with the second directed flow. The oxygenated blood is splitting into two, so that superior vena cava and this inferior vena cava blood. So they enter here. Like this, again goes up, goes towards the lungs, but there is no oxygenation. Again returns back to pulmonary veins, entering into the left heart. And here, ductus arteriosus is communication, right to left always. So you can see this is the septum secundum, which will divide the flow. So some blood goes this side and some goes back and combines with the deoxygenated blood and enters into your right ventricle. So you can see the mixing of the blood here in the liver. In the liver here, so two different are there: oxygenated, deoxygenated. And again here in the inferior vena cava. Then again here you can see. Then again here they're mixed. It's only a theoretical way. So this throughout the right to left shunting is there in the fetus. Then what happens after the child is born? There are certain adjustments take place. Now we don't need the right to left shunting of the blood. Now that the lungs are well going to function well. So now the placenta will be lost, umbilical cord is lost. So it depends on the lungs now for the oxygenation. So there are certain circulatory adjustments. So these adjustments are immediately, and also they extend up to a few months after birth. So immediate to some period, variable period of time following birth. So 1 to 3 months or 4 months like that. So why is this circulatory adjustment taking place? Because now it's shifting from the placenta towards your pulmonary gas exchange. So here what's happening? So the same diagram previous one here. So umbilical vein. So this umbilical vein no more, because no more blood from the placenta. So this will become your round ligament of the liver. Ligamentum teres hepatis. So when we were dissecting the abdominal wall, when we have opened it, we have seen there's a communication going towards your liver. Okay, in the falciform ligament. So that is the ligamentum teres hepatis. So what happens is these vessels which were patent during the fetus, after birth, they're useless now. So these become non-functional ligaments. So usually ligaments, when you, especially in the limbs and all, they are more supportive. They improve the stability of a particular joint and they give support. But here these ligaments are non-functional ligaments. Okay. So now, and we name it as a ligamentum teres hepatis. So it's like a round, so it's a round ligament of the liver. We have one more round ligament of the uterus. So this is round ligament of the liver. And this ductus venosus, which was actually a separate channel connecting it with the inferior vena cava, that becomes the left hepatic, the ligamentum venosum. Okay, ligamentum venosum. So that is one. So umbilical vein has changed, ligamentum teres hepatis. Then this part here, ductus has become ligamentum venosum. Then here, initially there is a shunting of blood from the right to left. But after birth, there will be a functional closure, because once the lungs open, there will not be a shunting of the blood. So it's actually functional closure in the sense like there is no proper anatomic closure, which will take after some time. There will be fusion of the two septa and all that. But here again, if there's a need, there could again be a reopening of this foramen ovale. So for the time being, it is functional closure. Later, it will become an anatomical closure. So that's a foramen ovale. Then again here, the ductus arteriosus. This is again narrowing, ligamentum arteriosus, because these are all for shunting the blood from the right to the left, these two. So they are no more required. So it becomes ligamentum arteriosus. Then these umbilical arteries here, they're going like this, sweeping. So these become the ligaments. If you remember the lower part of your abdominal wall, when we were dissecting the abdominal wall, there are folds of the peritoneum. So medial, and lateral. So total 5 are there. So through the medial umbilical ligaments, this is what is passing, the obliterated umbilical artery. Proximal parts are still functional, and these will be supplying to the bladder, and they're called as superior vesical arteries. So what are the other conditions related to this fetal circulation? One is a patent ductus arteriosus. So normally after birth, what should happen? The ductus arteriosus has to become ligamentum arteriosus. Okay, but if it is going to remain open, we call it as patent ductus arteriosus. So now in the fetus, what happens from the pulmonary trunk to a pulmonary artery, through the aorta, the blood was shunting right to left. But now after birth, the pressure is more on the left side. So from the aorta, the blood will be entering into your into the lungs through this communication. So patent ductus arteriosus, and the child will develop congestive heart failure. So here you can see there's a the blood is going from the aorta towards your pulmonary artery. The other important applied part here is umbilical vein catheterization. So sometimes there may be this erythroblastosis fetalis when there is a hemolysis in the newborn. So for that you may need an exchange transfusion. So for that we can use your umbilical vein to catheterize. So catheter is sent to it, and there's a transfusion done. That's called umbilical vein catheterization. So here there's a section of the umbilical cord. So in a section of umbilical cord, what is it you have to see? You will find 2 umbilical arteries and 1 umbilical vein. Which umbilical vein is the left umbilical vein? So this is, can identify the 2 arteries, and this is the vein. And here they're clamping it, and then they're sending a catheter through this. So this is the umbilical vein catheterization. Okay. So that's about the development of vascular system. So here you have to know 2 things. That is, what is vasculogenesis? Then arteries and venous system. Arteries are those aortic arches. So how many are there? What are the derivatives? And what is the fate of the aortic arches? Then just 3 or 4 anomalies in the development is at least the names you should understand. Coming to the veins, we've got 3 sets of veins. One set will be bringing the blood from the placenta, and the other is from the yolk sac, and the other from your body. That is the cardinal veins, right line veins, and umbilical veins. What is the fate of them? Draw the diagram and list out what structures they form in the adult. So that is actually what is expected of your embryology knowledge in the viva. What embryological structure becomes what adult structure. That if you will be able to relate, then you're really good. I mean, in anatomy to a certain extent. So that's it. Okay. I hope you've gone through that the PPT and the document which I've given.